Hey guys, Thomas Jr. here, aka Mustached, and I'm here to review the animated series Invincible. If you end up enjoying this review, then please consider joining my Patreon page. Any donations are desperately needed. Now, I decided to wait a little bit extra longer to see a few more reviews of this before letting out my more objective stance on this series. Of course, I had already released my challenge video, which was talking more about doing the whole character bit, as well as talking about my own book, Syndicate X, which obviously I have a obvious bias towards, even though its previous original version is objectively bad. I have been rewriting it to be objectively good, hopefully. But that is where that ended, and hopefully, uh, you know, I would have hoped that that could have gained some traction, maybe, or something. I don't know. Anyways, I was here to review Invincible, and again, as I've been saying, been watching some of the other reviews just to gauge where most people seem to be with it as well. Most people seem to review this show highly positively. Um, I've seen two videos that have pointed out its flaws, Angry Joe and now Thurius Unlimited. Um, Even though I'm a little shocked by that one, he seems to be actually overly positive, and he does mention one of the flaws, which I'll talk about here as well, but he does seem to skim over some of the other things that I do think that this show, or at least this season so far, season 1, is pretty weak in. So I will be talking about those. This is an unscripted video. Usually I try to write notes in terms of movie length because my memory is not that great, but this is a series and I didn't initially want to do this, but after finishing it and giving it some time and thinking about it, even though it's still unscripted technically, I still want to talk about Invincible and again, being more objective about it here. So I guess the place to start would be actually talking about its weaknesses. Now, I won't be going in order of every episode. I'll be kind of skipping around depending on what element I'll be talking about. So this format's going to be slightly different from my movie reviews where I go from beginning to end normally. Here I'm going to be trying to go from what things I think needed a lot more work and what does work in the show across the 8 episodes. So that's one of the issues, actually, is that it is only 8 episodes. And I think why that is such an issue is that the pacing of the show is really, really rushed in certain areas, and it becomes very clear, particularly around one character, you'll really, really notice it. Again, if you're being objective, if you're looking at the time frame from point A to point B for this one character, you'll be like, that didn't seem like that was earned at all, and it seemed like it was rushed to get it over with. And again, I'll be talking about that, so there will be spoilers. So I'll warn you now, if you have not seen Invincible, I would still say check it out. I would say it's good, but again, it definitely has its issues. Again, its pacing with some elements are severely lacking. And again, outside of the main character, even the main character has certain elements that I would hope that they fix or change or whatever. But anyway, so we follow Mark as Invincible. He is a quote-unquote super boy, I guess I would phrase him as, in this world of superheroes and supervillains, where his father, Omni-Man, is the Superman equivalent in this world, and you know my catchphrase about how my character can beat Superman, but jokes aside, Omni-Man, subsequently by the end of the episode, kills these other heroes, and we're left with this consequential action that this character took, where we've seen him beforehand and everything seems to be a little bit off, but it's treated in a way where we're supposed to go, well, he's just kind of getting used to his son getting powers in the first episode and the son being really awkward at it, and so on and so forth. And the son, along the way, failing in certain aspects of saving a certain amount of people, and then, these are the... I did say I was going to talk about bad elements first, but I guess I'll change it up. I will kind of go through an overview, so I'm changing my mind as we're going along. So he does fail at going through this, and through that is struggling to even see why he should even be a superhero. He's having these doubts because of those failures, because he's recognizing that he's not being able to make the difference that he wants to be able to make, and even, that upscales it, because you're talking about these more galactic threats, these threats that are coming from the outside, like these aliens in this one episode, and we see him sort of, freeze in that one moment, and then consequences are had, and because he froze, even though he does fly in and try to save that one woman, it ends up being that it wasn't quite enough for him, because he wasn't able to succeed to the fullest extent. These are, again, I would actually argue, are good elements of this story. This is where you see character progression, and again, this is something I talk about in my long video, how to become a objectively better writer, right? Just following through this sort of superhero journey, when you simplify it, it's this superhero who's struggling to discover what their powers are, and even when they do, they are, the next block, they're struggling to sort of get their everything together. You see them sort of succeed in certain regards, but not to the fullest extent. The damages that are brought on by the level of incompetence, at least in that time frame. So again, those are some of the better elements, and I would argue even so much more so that the whole family dynamic here is definitely the strongest element in this story. Outside of those three characters, his family, this is where we're going to start talking about some of the flaws here. This is where I'll transition. So again, some of the pacing is definitely an issue, and it definitely comes in when we're introducing all of these other characters, this sort of Teen Titans group that jumps in called Global Teen... I actually don't remember their name officially, but I guess that kind of goes on by saying, whoops, well, I do apologize on that, so that's what I get for not taking my notes. Apologies on that one, but nonetheless, we're introduced to, 5 new characters here, or 6, I forget how many are in that group. So we have a pyro, this character that can, blow up these coins, sort of like this Gambit-like character, as the best comparison I can make. This literal robot, again, very akin to, Cyborg, but just a robot. Even though there are implications that there's something other than that. This girl who can copy herself, the one that leaves the group, this super powered one that can change things, I guess, is the way I would, on a very small scale. Later on we see her change an entire building. So she's definitely one of the more powerful ones in terms of this new group. and her issues. And I'm trying to remember. Oh, yeah, and then there's the older girl that's aged down, that turns into the monster character. And then I think that's it. I think that's the new group that sort of comes in. And then the older mentor character, who's also there as well. So that makes up this new group. And then we have our villains, and then on top of that, we have all these other elements that are these like sort of secondary characters that are sort of making smaller and smaller appearances. And while this does make the world feel fleshed out, again, I do feel like the consequences of doing this in such a short time frame, this 8 episodes, you start to see some of the elements be rushed. Again, I'll point that out. Some of the elements be weak, which are also present in this, and that unfortunately drops what I would normally say would be a superb show to just being just another solid show. So one of the bigger rushes immediately is Robot. This character was insanely rushed. I cannot believe that they just said, oh, he has a human body, he's gonna transform to a human completely, boom, just like in a few episodes. Oh, and he also has a crush on Monster Girl, I'll just call her that, because I think that's her name. And by the end of the final episodes, they're already holding hands, like that. And the initial meeting we have of them, I had no implication that they were going to do that, which again I think is, again, an issue with the writing and the pacing, is that there is no time to even set this up. It's just, oh, he has a thing for her, which is, it feels even weirder. Like, I think that the point was it's supposed to be weird, question mark, but it comes off even weirder because of how fastly paced this is, how poorly constructed this portion of his story is. It's so rushed. It's insane how rushed his story is. So there's that portion. His character, I feel, has failed in that regard. There are missing puzzle pieces that I don't think they can answer now, unfortunately, because they've already just established that he's just going to be this human now with robot powers, or the ability to control robots, and he's already with Monster Girl. So there you did all of that in the span of 8 episodes. That is way too much, way too fast. That is insane and stupid. Do not do this in your writing. Do not pace this so poorly that you're missing so many puzzle pieces that it just comes off as lazy. It is lazy. It is objectively lazy. I'm saying this. I'm telling this to you. There are missing puzzle pieces. Why is he even attracted to her? It doesn't come across like he is. It seems like I almost thought they were going to do he was going to be like a father figure. Like, the way he was talking to her, like he was caring for her like a daughter almost, but then he like de-ageifies himself, and it becomes this relationship. So that tone in itself it feels off too. It doesn't feel like that's what was written there was how it is portrayed in this relationship that they're trying to get to. So outside of this character being insanely rushed, there is the other issue, the whole character identity reveal. So, of course, in this universe, as I mentioned, we have characters who are superheroes. They have So some of them, or at least Mark, apparently has a secret identity, which they also kind of rushed through this aspect. So he ends up hooking with this girl named Amber, and these two have an issue during one of the episodes where Mark is trying to, hide this fact from Amber at this point in time. And so he goes to leave to change to a superhero outfit. And you're thinking, okay, so he's going to do that. We've seen this done before. Superman is one example I immediately think of. And he comes back in, he saves the day, and later on, when it comes to this reveal, all of a sudden we see Amber being upset. And it comes across as baffling. That's the best word I can instantly think of, because this character Amber knows, or according to her, she knew or figured out somehow that Invincible was Mark. This was never shown. None of it's ever explored. Like, we don't see her, like, sort of any of her dialogue. Maybe her dialogue may have been hinting at it, maybe, question mark. But I don't think that was enough. I don't think that was enough in terms of how fast it happens. If that's the thing that they're trying to go for, and again, it comes back to that pacing issue, right? It feels so incredibly rushed, and all of a sudden she knows, and we don't see any of it. Maybe some of it's implied question mark is the best defense I can objectively give it from the dialogue. And even then, that doesn't feel like quite enough. But he does reveal that he's invincible, and she's still mad. And then that completely flips, and it's like, that doesn't make any sense. So he saves you. Let's say, for example, you have a partner who is a superhero, and, say right? You figured it out. So they go off because they independently think that they need to keep the secret identity, right? So they go off and they come back as their superhero form, and you already know. And they're trying to protect you. That's the whole point of this whole thing, right? Spider-Man does this as well. The Spider-Man movies heavily go over this through its series. At least in the first trilogy, more so than the second, I think. So, of course, the whole point of, like, Peter Parker going out and becoming Spider-Man is that he has villains that he has to face, that if they knew he was Peter Parker, they would probably go after Mary Jane, right? That's the whole point. So he's trying to go through that whole ordeal. And again, apparently she already knows. And she's mad for him trying to protect her. That is the key, trying to protect her. And I'm just like thinking, like, why? And none of the dialogue she says seems to fit. And there doesn't, again, maybe if there were more times of it happening consistently, and you have her, go through the main mom's character's arc where she's actually hunting, she's actually discovering, we actually see her see Omni-Man, we see her find the suit, she's actually doing things to figure out that Omni-Man's the one who's behind the murders, and we actually see her figure it out, so I feel like that's a better version of this, objectively, because we see it happen. So that becomes way more understandable, so I don't understand why they're trying to do it here, but do it so much worse. It doesn't make any sense. I would even go as far as to say I don't think Amber is a completely necessary character, unfortunately. I don't know. It feels like a superfluous relationship insert. That's the best defense I can give it. It is, and that's bad writing. It is it's superfluous relationship stuff. And I would feel more, if they did the whole reveal thing better, I would say, oh, they're actually like trying to gauge, this deeper thing within their relationship, actually discussing it. But it just feels like a hookup. That's all it feels like. And I hope there's more. If their relationship is meant to be, I don't know. I don't follow the comics, so I can't say on that front. Apparently, someone else already spoiled this by saying that's not the main relationship. I don't know if that's true or not. But even if it is, I still feel like if you're going to have this character, have it mean something more, even if it's not meant to be. Again, it just makes it feel more fulfilling than feeling like you're trying to insert things that don't belong in your story or don't feel as complete. Speaking of being completely removed, you can completely remove Mark's friend from this story. Nothing would change. His character is insert gay character here. Period. That is his character in all of the 8 episodes, and no one else has brought this up as an issue, and I'm like, but why? This is terrible writing. He is token I am gay. That's it. That is his character so far. That is pathetic. And I said it in my How to Become a Better Writer, when I was talking about the whole woke thing, or the whole, if you're going to do LGBT representation, do it well written. Write it well. That's what I am looking for. I'm not just looking for LGBT representation anymore. That's not good enough. I'm looking for well-written LGBT. If you're going to have it be done well. Or don't have it at all. Just don't have it at all, period. It is getting sickening. Animated show after animated show saying terribly written gay characters, terribly written lesbian characters, terribly written bisexual characters. It is getting sickening. Just don't do it if you're not prepared to do it. Period. This show is not prepared to write a gay character. Do not do it. Period. Remove this character. Kill him off. I don't care if people are going to then suddenly complain, oh, they're doing the whole kill your gays trope, which I find a baffling retort, considering that there's that one movie, which I keep forgetting what the name of it is, where those 2 gay guys live in a zombie apocalypse. I wish I remember what that movie was called. But still, come on, we can do better than this. We can do so much better than this, in terms of that writing. So again, some of its side characters are definitely suffer. Amber and the gay friend, I don't even remember his name. His name, I don't know. It's completely irrelevant. He is the gay character, so I'm just keep calling him the gay friend, because that's what he is. He's the token gay friend. Characters like this, these side characters, unfortunately get completely sidetracked or completely unnecessary to this bigger story. And again, some of its pacing, even with characters like Robot, as I mentioned, completely rushed. And then his superhero group, I don't know, I can't say too much about them because they're not well defined, and again, the pacing issue. While Mark has a good, character, struggling to get better, this group that we're side following just says that they're suddenly better. We don't see any of this. So, fuck that noise, I guess. I guess we don't have to see progression of this side team. I guess they just suddenly get to become good, and that's suddenly good for animation. No, that's terrible. I'm sorry, you're not doing good enough for them either. I feel like you could cut most of those characters out too. It almost feels like it so far. Again, the most interesting character, being Robot, unfortunately gets shafted as well in that regard. He technically gets the most, but it happens so quickly that it might as well be just skip to end. That's his character arc. I feel like it's done in season 1 of the show. Like how stupid is that? That I feel like his character arc is done. Where I don't know what he's supposed to do now, except save more people. That's it. Like I don't know. like uh I guess help Monster Girl. I guess that's the best benefit of the doubt I can give him in terms of being a character, but outside of that, I really can't say anything else. Um, so outside of the pacing being horrific for side characters, I will say that, a lot of people are praising the action, which, again, deals more with animation, more so, they're able to animate it very, very well. That's because they have a lot of money, apparently, which also allows them access to hire high-end actors as well, which is, I do feel, a bit a double-edged sword, because while the voice acting is good, I would feel like the more majority of that money went towards that over, say, hiring, say, perhaps a secondary editor or writer that could fine-tune these secondary characters and make sure that no one's being left behind on the wayside. So that's definitely feeling like the cost of certain elements are affecting others in regards to Invincible. So far, it appears to be the case. So there's that. So yeah, pacing issues with side characters. So Mark's journey, of course, is the most important. So, again, this is where I feel like the show is at its best, quote unquote, at base level best, when it's following Mark, but not following him when he's with his relationship currently, because that didn't work out. But, just struggling to be a hero at a more universal scale, and then scaling him down to the city level and having him meet that character, the guy who became the Kingpin. I forget his name as well. But he only made 2 appearances, so apologies for that one. And then we see him very briefly at the end, as well as other groups of people, during his Mark's final fight, where he ultimately sees what kind of person his father truly is, and what his father is truly after, and the destruction they cause, or Omni-Man primarily causes, as he's pummeling his son near to death oblivion, and then sort of just leaving because of that more emotional attachment that he has. And then he flies off. And again, during that montage, we see after the beatdown, because that's where the final episode sort of ends, we sort of go through all of our characters sort of in a more somber, majority seem to be in a more somber state. The wife slash mother, of course, would be in that state. The friend, the gay friend, in a somber state, because he lost his boyfriend that he was obviously gay for. Amber, who I guess hooks up back with Invincible, question mark? Again, that one, I don't know. That's another big question mark. So I guess all of that whole being angry stuff was completely irrelevant, so they could have cut that whole part out, because they already did it with another character. Again, they could have completely cut out Amber. I'm just saying. So far, I don't see what she adds that isn't established with another character. Um, so, yeah. The superhero group, as I mentioned, they seem to suddenly be a team, which again happens off screen, so skip, I guess. I guess they're suddenly good now, even though there's no proof of that. We didn't really. I mean, outside of them fighting that initial alien force, which that's the point where they said they sucked, but then we don't really see them again really doing much except losing again. So I'm not sure where they're getting this sudden confidence from. I'm not sure what they did to suddenly say they're a team, because that is not the last thing we see. We suddenly skip from them being terrible to them being a team. And again, that's right in line with that pacing issue that I keep bringing up, because we are just told through this animation that is what is happening, and it does not feel like it is earned at all, remotely. And they clean up that blood stain, even though I that was like, you did not earn that. You did not earn that. I'm sorry. There's nothing in this show you did in season 1 that made that team earn that. So it's frustrating when you get these sort of moments where you're just like, well, I guess that's a missed opportunity. So yeah, definitely quite a few issues with most of the side characters. Maybe the scope of this was far too big for 8 episodes to handle. I'll be blunt and say that. That is very, very clear. I feel like 8 episodes was not enough. It was not enough to handle the amount of material that they would need to go through. Apparently they have been opened to seasons 2 and 3, but now there are certain things they can never do. Certain elements they can never earn, and it's mostly through their side characters that can never earn these moments. That superhero group can never earn that blood clearing. They can never earn it. Never. I mean, doing it in flashbacks just going to be lazy now, and be like, oh, well, we totally forgot, so now we have to do it. It feels like that's what they have to do in order for me to say, oh, they earned it. That's the only way now. And it's going to feel completely rushed as well, inherently, because it was already rushed. But at least I can say Mark's journey is decent. It is solid. It is well. That story is well paced. And again, with him being the main character, I think that should be given. That should be the standard, I feel like. Your character should go through a character arc, and he does. Even though his final answer is something I also feel is kind of stupid. He just says finish high school. I feel like, even though he's like sort of in that low point of like, well, whether or not I'm going to be a superhero, and he's even like, oh, no, I don't know. I feel like that answer was a little bit like, oh, really? That's all you're gonna do? Like, your father's Omni-Man. I'm not sure if going to high school is gonna answer that question. You know, how do you stop Omni-Man? That's not gonna help you, buddy. Sorry. But I get it, they're trying to move him to his next point, which is college. Which, I don't know, isn't for everyone, so I'm not sure why that would make sense. And again, I don't follow the comics, so I'm not sure what they're doing. I don't know what's up ahead. So that's just me guessing that it's probably not going to make that much sense. Maybe they could make something work, I don't know. So in terms of giving it a overall score, now this is where things get a little bit tricky. Again, considering everything, not just oh, it was well animated. I don't feel like, again, I think a lot more people are praising that over the writing, as well as the blood and the gore. I feel like a little more of the majority of people are doing that than saying the writing is good. And the writing for Mark and his family is good. Everything else is really, really, really poorly paced. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. The best I can do is give it a 6 out of 10 if I'm being extremely generous. I feel like Mark's journey does warrant the 6 out of 10, but I cannot give it higher than a 6 out of 10, objectively speaking, because there are just too many issues with this for me to say that that is a solid 7 out of 10. There are just too many. So that is my full review for Invincible. And again, I will reiterate, even I'll do it more seriously out of the whole persona thing of Zeke Dartel. I really do think that Syndicate X could be a competition show for Invincible. I really 100% believe that. In terms of just pure writing, I feel like I could really stand a chance. Now, I'm not an animator by any means. I can't even draw for shit. So, I probably could never make an animated thing. So, there's that, unfortunately. And in terms of money, well, I'm not a Robert Kirkman. I did not make a very successful Walking Dead and now Invincible. So, in terms of hiring people, that is also a part where I would struggle personally, because I probably wouldn't be able to afford the people that they were able to get here in terms of just pure voice acting, which again is something that is highly praised. But again, I'm looking at the core, I'm looking at the writing, and what the writing is telling me is that the writing of the family is well written, the rest of the characters are highly suffering. So yeah. So we shall see where season 2 and 3 are. I hope that they are able to make both seasons longer than 8 episodes apiece. I really hope that is the case, so we don't get the same issue of insanely rushed side characters, and we're really able to expand upon these things that should be expanded upon. For the sake of people saying that this is a good show, I will say Mark's family is a good family. That is, their characters are good characters, and that is the extent of what in the show, since it's primarily focused on them. So, with them being what I would consider the main characters, with Omni-Man being the main antagonist. But side characters, oof. Big oof. So again, I do feel like Syndicate X, if I could have a chance to make that, if I ever could have that type of money, that is a project that I would highly consider doing. I would animate it. It would be rated R, no questions asked. One of the first elements in my story is 2 young people killing each other, pretty much. So it's pretty brutal. It's in a world that is very different than Earth, so I feel like that gives it a different spin from Invincible. There are very utopian and dystopian mixtures in my world, in terms of other elements, in terms of the whole superhero power stuff. Of course, there are only so many superpowers that one can create, so of course you're going to see characters that have similar powers, but in terms of their character, I think I can write better than Invincible. I really, really do. I think I can objectively create more interesting characters, and if I had a season 1 of Syndicate X, I would want to ask for more than 8 episodes, even though that'd probably be really hard, because that'd be really hard to animate that much. I understand that, but I do think that I could write better characters, and especially side characters. It is such a shame that so many of their side characters feel completely either rushed or irrelevant to the main story. I feel like I have a better grasp of that currently in terms of what I've been doing. And, you know, if, again, given that chance, just saying. So again, a 6 out of 10 is the fairest I can give it objectively. If you ended up enjoying my review, then again, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my Discord server, the other to my Patreon page. Any donations are desperately needed, and until next time, everyone, bye-bye!